We talked about in a previous video regarding the Manchester United game, the changes that were made by Lopetegui in that game. Some were a bit baffling in terms of the first lineup, the starting 11. Talked about this as well in a little bit of detail, where we sort of seem to be moving away from this fixation on the starting 11 rather than thinking of the whole squad, which I think is what sort of Lopetegui's starting to introduce at West Ham a bit more a reliance and an importance on the substitutes, whereas before we've never really experienced that. I'm talking about previous manager Moyes. We didn't. The bench was never. I mean, sometimes the bench was shocking, wasn't it? We used to go there and go, "We've no players you even want to put on." But now it feels like we've got a head coach whereby he sees the bench as actually just as important as the starting 11. They're going to play a part in this game, which I'm actually finding quite refreshing. Actually, I quite like it. I quite like the fact that we've got. I like the fact that although Lopetegui still clearly doesn't know his starting 11 correct, he hasn't got his best team. I quite like the fact that he addresses things in games. We've not really had that for a long time. We used to stand there with Moyes going, "Come, you can clearly see this isn't working," and you just stand there and watch it unfold. Do you know what I mean? And never really deal with it. I used to find it so frustrating. Whereas I feel like with Lopetegui, at least we're not seeing so much of that. We're seeing someone that's going, "Right, that isn't working. I'm going to make a change." And one of the big changes he made for the Manchester United game was the goalkeeper. He took out Areola following our 4-1 loss to Tottenham. But I think it was more than that. It wasn't just one game. It's been building this season. Areola, for me, has not been good enough this season at all. I think he's been really off. And I'm going to be honest, I've never been sold. I think you probably know this. I've said this quite a few times. I've not been sold on Areola. I just don't think he's a top-level goalkeeper. I feel that if you're going to be a top 6, top 8, European chasing football club in the Premier League, you've got to have a good goalkeeper. It's so vital to have and it's not just as well the ability to stop shots and etc. I think it's what it does for the team around you. It's what it does to your defence, even midfield and forwards, to know that you've got a goalkeeper that can be really trusted, I think just instills a confidence in the team. And the fact that game against Man United, when we had Fabianski back in goal, where he'd been recalled to replace Areola, I felt personally myself more comfortable. I was watching the game and I felt more assured knowing Fabianski was there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting, don't do anything. We've got Fabianski. Fabianski's not the top level goalkeeper anymore. I love Fabianski, absolutely love him, but just because of his age now, he's not. We can't be relying on him, in my opinion. I'm not saying he can't do a job for us, but I'm talking more long term here. I just felt so much better with him in the goal. And I felt that watching the defence, watching us play in general, I mean, apart from when he came out flying out the goal for that Dalot miss, when he sort of went to get the ball when he went round him, he didn't do a lot wrong for me, Fabianski. I felt that he was reliable. He looked good. He looked confident. He looked assured. And it made such a big difference. And that change, having Areola dropped, don't get me wrong, right decision. And I'm really grateful that he's done that. I'm really glad that Lopetegui's addressed it. And he's not just... If that had been David Moyes, I feel like I don't want to keep slagging David Moyes off. I'm not here to do that. But let's be honest, that change wouldn't have happened. I'm really sure of that as well. I'm pretty confident that change probably would not have happened. I just don't believe it would have done. It begs the question, though, doesn't it? The sort of the goalkeeper situation at West Ham. I think it's quite apparent that Lopetegui has no confidence in, or we don't have no confidence, but he got little confidence in Areola. And I join him with that. I just don't trust him. I find the problem is I find with Areola, right, is that he will pull off a couple of really amazing saves, and they are impressive. He has pulled off some really impressive saves for us in his time at the club. No two ways about it. But I feel sometimes those saves, because they're so good, they kind of paper over everything else. It's almost like you then forget, oh yeah, I know you're crap in the air and you're not very good. You don't command your box, and your defence look nervous around you, but you did pull off that bloody great save. It's almost like what I feel like keeps happening with him. And I'm just finding him a bit of a liability now. That Tottenham game, his distribution was shocking. Awful distribution, that game against Tottenham. And he's just conceding too many goals. He just seems he's not good enough. I've got to the point with Areola now where I'm sure that he is not the right goalkeeper for us. He is not the number one goalkeeper that West Ham need. West Ham need a proper, top level goalkeeper. When I say top level, we're not going to get Allison or Edison kind of level, whatever. But I don't think we can. Slightly below that, I think we can get. I remember when we signed Areola, we could have signed Nick Pope, and I remember the time thinking, please just go and get Nick Pope. Please go and get him. That he would be perfect for us. A really, really good goalkeeper. And we went for Areola. And I think we went for Areola because I think purely because of the fact he'd been on loan with us before. I can't remember exactly how it was. But I remember being so frustrated. I knew we'd go for the wrong decision. I just knew when it was said West Ham are weighing up the options of Nick Pope and Areola. I just know we're going to get Areola. I know what we're going to do. And I feel like that's bitten us a little bit. But I feel now it's quite obvious that it's a priority position for the club to sort out. Not top number one priority, but it needs sorting. I think next summer is vital. I was thinking before doing this video of who I would get as goalkeeper, and I'm still not entirely sure. No one leaps out at me immediately. I'm quite looking forward to having this conversation again on this channel, and I'm quite looking forward to getting your suggestions in. Just let me know what you think. But you know what? There's a part of me that really feels we missed out on Ramsdale. Arsenal, obviously, we've got Southampton now. I mean, maybe he's someone we can go and get. Should they get relegated, which I think they will. Sadly, I think they will get relegated. Southampton. Maybe that's someone we can go and get. I'd like to know your thoughts on him, but I liked him. I really felt sorry for him at Arsenal. I know he made a couple of mistakes in that, but I actually thought on the whole, outside looking in, Arsenal fans watching this might think, no, he was absolutely shocking. I didn't think he was. I felt really sorry for him. The way he was dropped by Arteta, I get it. He's the manager. He wants to upgrade. He sees that Raya is a better goalkeeper, and he's made the change. That's fine. But I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. I liked him at Arsenal. I liked his connection with the fans. He seemed to have a really good personality about him, which I think is really good as well. I think he would have fitted in well at West Ham, I really do. I think he was one of those goalkeepers I think that the fans would take to. I think the players quite like him. And I actually thought he was a good goalkeeper. I watched him for Arsenal and thought he's decent. He pulls off good saves. He's commanding in the box. He's quite a sort of aggressive goalkeeper at times as well. I would have liked him. I would have liked him. I remember we went to Southampton as a part of me thinking, I wish we should sign him. But I know that it wasn't a priority and Areola was considered our number one, etc., etc. But I just feel like this season it's quite obvious that he's not a number one for us. If we're gonna kick on, right, then I think the goalkeeper situation needs sorting out. So, yeah, and that's why my feelings are on it. And I think it's going to be a priority. I think that come the summer, whether they'll do it in January, I doubt it'll be a mid-season change. I think that would be quite extreme because you don't get very good value, do you, for money in January? It's usually panic signing time. I don't think we're not in a situation where we need to panic. Fabianski for me is now number one. I don't see how Areola gets back into this team unless through injury or unless Fabianski has absolute collapses in form. But we've seen over the years that Fabianski's a pretty steady pair of hands, really, on the whole. So I don't see Areola get back in this team, and I think it's quite obvious that he's not trusted by Lopetegui. And I agree with Lopetegui on that. I firmly agree with it. I don't trust Areola to be our number one. And I'd like to know your thoughts on it. So we think we're going to get in, or you'd like to see get in, and your thoughts on Older Ramsdale, because I would certainly, if they are relegated to Southampton, then that is certainly someone to be on my list of potential incoming goalkeepers. Should we decide to get rid of Areola, which I think we probably will do.